Tinder dates are usually a disaster, but Anna, she was different. Her profile wasn't overloaded with filters, and she actually responded with full sentences, rare these days. We matched on a Monday. By Wednesday, we were already deep in conversation about horror movies, crime documentaries, and how weirdly creepy people could be. She was into all of it. "Let's meet up," she finally said. She picked a small, quiet restaurant downtown. A little too quiet, honestly, but I didn't mind. When I arrived, she was already seated, sipping a glass of red wine. "You're even cuter in person," she said with a slow smile. Her eyes locked onto mine, unblinking, like she was studying me. I chuckled, trying to shake off the weird feeling creeping up my spine. The conversation was smooth, though. She was funny, smart, a little intense, but I liked that. The only weird part, she never reached for her phone, not once. When I asked for her Instagram, she just smiled. I like to keep my life private. Something about the way she said it felt off, but she was gorgeous, and the night was going well. After dinner, we stepped outside. The parking lot was empty. She trailed her fingers up my arm, looking up at me. "Come back to my place," she whispered. I should have been thrilled. Instead, I felt wrong. That's when I saw her phone light up on the table behind her. She must have left it there when we got up to leave. The screen was still on, showing her Tinder messages. My message thread was there, but below it, there were dozens of other chats. Each one had the same text she'd sent me. "Let's meet up." Then I noticed the dates. The last 5 men she messaged, all within the last 2 weeks, and none of them had responded after their first date. My heart slammed against my ribs. She tilted her head, still smiling. "Something wrong?" I lied. "Nah, let's go." But as she turned, I slowly reached for my keys. Then I ran. I sprinted across the parking lot, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. I didn't care how it looked. I just knew I needed to get the hell away from her. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Not hurried, not running, just a slow, steady walk. Like she knew I wasn't getting far. I yanked open my car door, jumped inside, and slammed the lock button. My fingers fumbled on the ignition, but before I could start the engine, she was already at my window, calm, smiling, waiting. I refused to look at her, pretending to check my phone, pretending I wasn't absolutely terrified. My headlights flicked on, illuminating her face in the dark. She raised a single finger. Then she turned and walked away. I didn't wait to figure out what that meant. I gunned it out of the parking lot, checking my mirrors every 5 seconds, making sure she wasn't following me. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept circling back to that phone screen, those dozens of other men. Where the hell were they now? The next morning, I opened Tinder. Anna's profile was gone. No messages, no match history, like she'd never existed. I checked the news. Nothing. No missing men, no reports, nothing at all. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe she was just weird. But 2 days later, a new profile popped up on my feed. Different name, different pictures, but the same bio. Let's skip the small talk. And the moment I swiped left, I got a notification. A new user has liked you. It was her. I wasn't even that into Sophie when we matched. Her pictures were cute. A gentle smile, soft eyes, and a touch of mystery. But her messages were brief, almost clipped. There was something elusive about her. She never asked about me, yet she was quick to make plans. "Let's get drinks," she'd said in one of our early chats. and I agreed, expecting nothing more than a casual encounter. The bar she picked was a small, dimly lit joint on the outskirts of the city. It was the kind of place that pretended to be upscale, a mix of modern decor and vintage quirks. But tonight, it felt unusually empty. As I pushed open the heavy door, a wave of cool air and soft jazz greeted me. I scanned the room until I spotted her. Sophie was sitting at the far end of the bar, alone, stirring a cocktail with a long, delicate straw. She wore a simple black dress that accentuated her graceful movements, and when she looked up, there was an almost imperceptible smirk on her lips. "Nice of you to join me," she teased lightly as I slid onto the stool beside her. Despite arriving on time, her tone suggested I was fashionably late. I laughed it off and tried to engage her in conversation. For a while, the evening unfolded with an odd balance. We traded light banter and shared a few laughs. Yet something felt off. I couldn't help noticing that while I nursed my drink, Sophie barely touched hers. She kept her eyes on me, as if she were absorbing every detail. My nervous fidgeting with the napkin, the way I glanced around the nearly empty bar. Her silence was punctuated only by the occasional soft clink of ice against glass. After a few drinks, I excused myself to use the restroom. As I walked past our table, a flash of color on the wall caught my eye. A missing person flyer taped haphazardly to a bulletin board. The photo was of a man about my age, with dark hair and a rugged beard. The text below stated he had been missing since just last week. I paused, confused. It was odd, almost eerie, that such a flyer would be up in a place like this. I shrugged it off as an unfortunate coincidence and made my way to the restroom. Returning to the bar, I immediately sensed something was amiss. Sophie's seat was empty. The cocktail she'd been idly stirring was gone. I scanned the area. Her purse, her coat, even her phone were nowhere to be seen. My heart began to pound as I rose and walked around, questioning the few other patrons. At the counter, I flagged down the bartender, a middle-aged guy with tired eyes and a weary smile. "Excuse me," I asked, voice wavering slightly. "Did you see where the girl I was with went? She was here just a few minutes ago. Her name's Sophie." The bartender frowned and shook his head. "What girl?" he replied, his tone dismissive. "You've been drinking alone for the past half hour. There's no one by that name." My stomach churned as I retraced my steps. I checked the bathroom, the seating area, even the shadowy corners behind the bar, but there was no sign of her. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and when I pulled it out, the Tinder match conversation with Sophie had vanished. Every message, every notification, wiped clean as if our interaction had never happened. I returned to the bar counter, desperation mounting. There on the bar lay the one untouched drink. It was clear now that while I had been sitting there conversing with someone, I was entirely alone. Panic rose in my chest as I remembered the flyer. I pulled it off the wall with trembling fingers and examined it more closely. The photograph wasn't the man from the flyer. It was a collage. Alongside the bearded stranger's image, in faded ink at the bottom, was a name, Sophie, and the caption revealed a horrifying detail. She had been reported missing 3 years ago. Questions swirled through my mind. Was I the victim of some elaborate prank? Or had I encountered something far more sinister? A ghost from a past crime? A spectre that used modern technology to lure unsuspecting men into its trap? Every rational thought seemed to crumble under the weight of the inexplicable events of the night. I left the bar in a daze, the cool night air doing little to calm my frayed nerves. As I drove home with the windows cracked, my mind replayed every moment. Her mysterious smile, the vacant look in her eyes, the silent warning of that missing person flyer. I wondered if she had ever been real at all, or just a phantom created to lure me into a trap I'd narrowly escaped. Every time I pass by that bar, I still see the empty stool and the spot where her drink once sat. And sometimes, in the quiet hours of the night, I can almost hear her soft, lingering laughter, reminding me that some mysteries are best left unsolved.